Could I have your attention, please? It's time to start. Call the meeting to order with the pledge to the flag, followed by I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the apostle will hold the prayer, please. Our Lord and our God, we are indeed thankful for your presence with us through all of life. We are thankful for the abundant blessings that you bestow upon all of us, and we are thankful for the blessing to be able to live and to raise our families in this beautiful part of your creation. We know that you have called upon us to be stewards of the resources that you have provided for us. And we ask that as we discuss the business this evening of the amendment, that you would guide our thoughts and that we would be able to make wise decisions, short-term as well as long-term. We're thankful for our attorney and for the township supervisors and for the No Data Center group that raised public awareness. And we just ask that you remind us that we are all Americans and that we are looking for your direction as we head into the future. And we pray that all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Before I turn the meeting over to Attorney White, this evening we will have a 3-minute limit on any citizen comments. Mr. White.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, good to see all of you. So this is the amendment process. It's what I always told you was coming. I told you that we did the ordinance, we needed to conform it to the zoning code. The amendment here does that and a couple of other things. So the data center developers have not been sleeping. They filed a challenge to our denial, and they filed it, believe it or not, common pleas court as well, to try to get the first ordinance exterminated. I don't really care if we adopt this, it replaces that. I will caution everybody that if you read what they filed, you need to wait for our response before you make up your mind about anything. And that's all I can say about ongoing litigation. Okay? All right, so with that, we'll get started. So I'm going to walk through the ordinance, and I'll point out the things that have changed from the last ordinance. You'll notice the format's different. The very beginning, the all caps, is been expanded. There's some whereas clauses there. I don't need to read those. Section 1, Article 2 of the Granville Township Zoning Ordinance is amended to add the following definitions. You can insert it alphabetically. They're all the same except for data center accessory uses. There, I added stormwater facilities. There was water holding facilities already mentioned, but I added stormwater facilities to that definition to try to make sure they don't build on the agricultural land. And all the definitions are the same. Article 4, 4.202B. So I'm changing the language a little bit, and I'm changing it to say that the major traffic impact study, remember this is what they did. They came into us with a major traffic impact study for a use that isn't approved yet. That'll probably be litigated on whether or not that's allowed, but that's what they did. So I'm taking that away from future use by saying provided they are listed or permitted or have been granted a special exception use. That tightens up that language. Article 4, Section 4.202. I'm replacing the first paragraph with the second paragraph. I think the second paragraph is much more descriptive of what we're getting at, and it's legally sound. It puts in the standard of review, it puts in the police power that we're using to enforce. Article 4, Section 4.306 is a table. I added data centers to the end, and the number that the data center will be, 4.421. Section 5, Article 4, Section 4.307. This is a strange table that's in our zoning ordinance. I was afraid to take it out because it would result in all kinds of other harm, but it says single-family houses in the principal building uses. What I've added is the asterisk to that, which says, see data centers and large solar energy facilities for much stricter guidelines. Article 4, Section 4.21 is added to read as follows. Now this is basically our first ordinance with a bunch of changes. The first is up front. I said there has to be strict compliance with the performance standards. And I added the next. If a major traffic impact conditional use is also required, it shall be filed concurrent with this conditional use, meaning the data center one, and the two shall be heard together as one. So no more splitting these things up. Okay, next. C2. Well, yes, C2. I added center line. That was a comment from the county. And we're the same all the way to G4 on page 9. I added that in the original draft. The berm was there, but it wasn't really, it was sort of required, it sort of wasn't. I took it out and put it on its own, so they got to build the berm. A minimum of 5 feet high. The total height depends on the design after the fact, and we'll get into that. All right, next, page 10, J1. I'm requiring them to collect public water if they're within 3,000 feet. So the within 3,000 feet is what's new. J2. I put in be quieter to the satisfaction of the municipal engineer. Quieter is important. J3, I put in with conditional use application. That defines the time when they need to submit that certification. Then we jump to 7. J7. No building permit shall be issued until the required state pollution permits are out. Now, remember the first ordinance said we don't go until the state goes. Yesterday, the governor, through his executive order, said the state won't issue any permits until we go. So I had to change that. 9, the applicant shall connect the public sewer if it is located within 3,000 feet and pay the cost to do so. And that was in the original ordinance, but I put it out on its own to make it really stand out. 10, I added, this is my Corey Hockenberry amendment. I added PFAS, fluorochemicals, glycols, biocides, corrosion inhibitors, scale inhibitors, halocarbons, solvents, etc. So I spelled all those things out that they must disclose to us. And then at the end, I added the next sentence, the applicant shall notify the township of any proposed change to the quality of the wastewater. So you tell us beforehand, not after it's been going in for a month. See, I do listen. Okay, let's jump to page 14. Noise studies. Post-construction, that's B. I added every year thereafter onto the end to make sure that if, I don't know, just so they're currently reporting that they keep reporting. D, I took out the word materiality, which was in there. Do not materially increase the baseline noise level. I took out materially. Noise mitigation measures may be required by the zoning officer, I'm reading from me, or independent analysis conducted by the township. So that means they gotta do their studies, but we can go out there at any time and double check them at our, when we want to, basically. All right, now, this next thing, I want to have a discussion, and I mean a discussion. So, no yelling, let's just try to be all adults here. The sound levels with sensitive receptors shall not exceed, and this is what I did. I raised it 5 decibels. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but I have reasons for this. Ours was set the lowest of any ordinance in this state. And that would be challenged under the reasonableness principle. Under that principle, they'd say it's so unreasonable they can't build, they'd sue, and we'd get into litigation on it. When we're in litigation on that, I bring in experts, they bring in experts, and the trier of fact would pick some number, which would be much higher. It would probably be around 55, because that's where most of these ordinances come in. Now, with that said, our engineer has done some work about what happens to sound from the property line to the neighbors. So I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
So we had a similar call.
So we had similar conversations when the solar development was coming in. If anybody doesn't know, our current saldo and zoning limited solar developments to 55 decibels at the property line. As Fred said, he's limiting to this 45, 55 during different times. He's still setting it lower than our solar development, our solar ordinance. What we did though is we took and looked at the reduction of sound over distance, looked at the 3 closest properties to this proposed development coming in. Obviously that would be 465 Loop Road, 491, and 391 Loop Road. 465, 491, both have structures very close to the property line. So it's, it's not incidental, but it's tough to measure anything off aerial imagery without being out there. But just for reference, if from the property line to their house to anything, so if we go 10 meters, 32 feet away from the property line, we've lost 20 decibels. So if Fred's ordinance is allowing 50 decibels at the property line, 32 feet away, you're hearing 30 decibels. At 55 feet away, we're down to 25 decibels. So it does reduce fairly quickly. It's a log calculation, so it's not like you can double the number, it's reduced. But we have taken that into consideration when we look at these numbers. Again, we feel bad for 465, 491. 391 Loop Road has a pool at 85 feet away from the property line. They're only going to be about 17 decibels. If the data center is producing 50 decibels at the property line.
Okay, we're taking that at the property line.
Correct.
The fence is going to be 400 feet in. You're saying the building got to be property line. The property line gets a fence and 400 feet goes in where the buildings go.
Correct. So our ordinance is saying, 50 decibels at the property line. We're running all these numbers off of that property line, which is where our restriction is.
And vibration can't come outside the fence.
Vibration is something different.
Okay,
I have that here.
but it stops at the fence. It cannot proceed no further than the
Right, that's right.
Okay.
Just a question for you. I know you can't adjust everything for every homeowner, like for 391 Road. Is there any way you can put in there that they have something special put there? So it's like a buffer, more of a buffer, whether it's trees or just for them themselves?
Well, I can, and that can be worked out in the developer's agreement, but under this ordinance, the screening and buffering and berm should already have this much lower than where it needs to be. But in addition to the screening, the buffering, and the berm, if they need something additional for just those properties, I would get it in the developer's agreement.
And they would have to abide by that?
Yeah, it's a legally binding contract.
So we can get them a solid wall, I built like we do along the highways.
If it's needed, if it's needed, yes.
Okay.
And there's other ways to do it too. You know, there's berms, there's plantings, there's all kinds of other stuff. That would be something we'd have to negotiate with them, and that happens in the developer's agreement form. Ordinances are written for the whole township. That's an individual case, that's where that gets developed. Okay, Brian, are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions regarding that.
One back there.
Please state your name.
Mary Young.
Thank you.
So you gave distances that the decibels goes down. What is the distance where the sound is going to be negligible?
So Fred had the chart, I think we figured at 17 decibels. That's the equivalent to leaves rustling. So I would consider that, non-noticeable. If we're at 50 decibels at the property line, we need to reduce it by 33 decibels. We're at 140 feet. So 140 feet away from the proposed property line, it would be considered leaf rustling.
And adding to that, have you taken into account that noise travels much greater over water?
We have not looked into that. Again, this is just the standard log calculation. We're not taking into account wind carrying distance or anything like that.
But the point is, it gets it down pretty quickly, way down, to the point where you won't even notice it.
If 140 feet makes that big of a difference, then why wouldn't you increase the distance between the property, the build site? I think it was 400 feet. So if you made it 500 feet or 550 feet, then
I got you. So I looked at both properties and measured it extensively. 400 feet is the maximum setback I think I can get away with.
why?
Well, because you can't put a setback in that destroys their whole ability to build.
They've already changed their initial plans. What they submitted was not what they originally, so you wouldn't change it because they couldn't build then. They couldn't build what they had
I've always
initially
been at
proposed.
400 feet.
I know, but you said you wouldn't increase it because then they couldn't build there.
Okay,
What I'm
so they-
saying is they continue to change what they've submitted. So they can still build something, they just have to make it work within our ordinance.
Yes,
Right, so if you increased it,
but they're not in the ordinance now.
right,
They're
so that's what we're asking
333
for.
feet, I need to push them back 70 feet to make the 400.
Fred. So Fred, you're saying about increasing the setback distance. Our ordinance calls out the sound level at the property line.
Right,
If we push the building back another 300 feet, that building can just generate an additional 80 decibels of sound, which will keep the sound the same at the property line.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Okay?
We establish the sound at the setback level at the 400 feet from the property line.
He's going off the property line.
I know, I'm asking if we can, instead of measuring at the property line, measure it at the setback.
Measure the building.
At this, whatever the setback is, 400 feet.
They can't build to 400 feet away from the property line, so if you rent tight against the building, they couldn't come out.
That's okay.
Well, it's easier to go from the property.
Yeah, I know, but that's what they're asking. It's
And
hard
to
to
go from the buildings can move around as long as they're not in the setback. We don't have final plans. We have a set of plans. Hopefully it'll change. I'm not answering this very well, am I? It's from the property line is where we can measure and get the exact amount.
Some of those properties are right against the data center, so.
We know that, and that was where his law came into play. Yes, sir.
Is there any way we could ask for maybe soundproofing material?
I think as Fred had mentioned, that can be addressed in the land development agreement. In our experience, working with developers like this, obviously, not this developer, but most developers that have come into this township and most that I have dealt with are pretty amicable to, short sections of additional soundproofing. That, as everybody says through this whole thing, that's a drop in the barrel to them. If it means a little bit more positive PR for them, I think at the end of the day, they would go that direction.
I have an ongoing question, and it's Charlie,
Thank you.
every time we talk about the ordinance and stuff, you talk about, well, we're looking at the property and it's from here. Like, can't we pretend like there's not a property? Shouldn't this cover, like, if there was another data center to come in, not just specifying that property every time?
Well, this applies to all properties in the industrial zone where they could build a data center. And you're right, I had to look at all of them, but the ones they want to develop, I looked at especially hard.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. I just feel like we need to be more general and protect everywhere, not just that spot.
Well, it does. It protects all properties in the industrial zone, and they're only allowed to go in the industrial zone. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Next, we go to, on page 15, E1, 3E1. I missed the percent. It's in there now.
Where are we at? I can't hear.
We're at page 15, E1. Nice. I added the percent to 50, percent sign. Minor. Okay. Next page 16, G. I added no less than quarterly to the end of that. So we'll get the reports on energy efficiency and emissions data on a quarterly basis. All right, N1. In the very middle of the paragraph, I added subject to applicable utility regulations and any applicable state or federal preemption. I thought that was important to note. Then there's a whole number 2 here. N2, electric utility substation shall be located on the same industrial zone property as the data center they serve and shall be fully screened to view from sensitive receptors. That gets to your point about trying to be on the agricultural land and prohibits it outright. All right, moving on. Page 17Q. An electronic waste plan shall be submitted with the conditional use application. All right, moving on to page 18, decommissioning. I added with the conditional use application in T1. And in T4, I took out structures, and let me tell you why. So structures, equipment and accessories are unique to data centers, I can regulate them. Structures would apply to everything in the industrial zone. If one of the plants that's already there should go out of business, do I want them to tear down your structure? No. No, I hope it's resold. I hope it opens to something else. So that's why structures is taken out. Okay. You, on page 19,
Wait a minute, hold on, sir. I thought we all agreed that it would go back to farmland.
read what?
That if it ever went under, it could go back to farmland.
Right, but to do that, I'd have to do it for all the other uses in the industrial zone.
Wouldn't they be grandfathered in?
They're grandfathered in, but they ain't under this ordinance, right? How can you make them go under? Like,
Well,
I'm
no.
grandfathered in with my garage business.
I can't make, well, if you're going forward, because they're not decommissioned as of today. If they were decommissioned today, they're grandfathered. But
The
it
business
applies
has been in
to,
our township.
yeah.
They've been in our township, they ain't under this ordinance, the new people coming in be under this ordinance.
Right, but structures isn't unique to data centers. Everybody's got a structure. So it would have to apply to everything in the industrial zone, including the ones that are there now.
Can't you make it unique to just data centers?
No, because everybody needs a structure.
This is crap.
I don't think the law.
Yeah, but when they fall under new structures, like new businesses coming in buildings, they would fall under that, but overhead door, and then they're already been here with their buildings and stuff.
Right, but if they go out of business tomorrow or after this ordinance,
Someone else can step in.
do you want them to tear down the structure?
Yes.
You do.
Don't you want that thing gone?
No, he's saying about overhead door, you don't let the business.
No, we don't want overhead door. Those things, that's our business.
They've been here,
We
they've
want-
Right,
been going
and
through.
what I'm saying is you can't differentiate from data centers to the existing businesses. Because the structure applies to everybody, because everybody needs a structure.
I guess I don't understand why, if this is a new ordinance for data centers, wouldn't all the other buildings be grandfathered in under the old ordinance?
No, because they haven't decommissioned yet. They're operating. It's when they stop operating is decommissioned. So it'd be in the future is when they do this.
But like Tori said, this is an ordinance for data centers.
Right,
So overhead door is not a data center.
that's right. But singling data centers out for something that is the same in every other use is improper.
We did it with the noise, and we've done it with other things.
But we're saying this use is unique in the noise things.
So it's a data center industrial use is unique as well.
I didn't think a data center was industrial at all anyway.
What?
I don't think a data center is industrial anyway.
Well,
It doesn't produce anything.
it has to go in some zone. I don't want to be residential zone, to tell you that.
It doesn't produce anything. The industrial, like Standard Steel, they produce something.
Well, it produces data.
No, it stores. It's not producing it, it's storing.
And computes. It's a new economy. Yes, sir, in the back.
About the emergency services,
Maine,
William Griffin, 20 Back Main Drive. I was reading about the emergency services. If something were to catch fire or something, they'd have to have specialized equipment, specialized stuff to stay out. If our local fire companies were to be responsible to supply that, they go out of business. We have the fire companies. How's that going to be? If they come in, are they going to be in charge of actually supplying our fire companies for that? Or are they just going to, hey, we're here, you got to deal with it? And
No, there's a whole section in the ordinance about emergency services, and they're going to train, and they have to pay for all that they're going to use in terms of that. It's item R on page 17. And this is part of the emergency response plan. The response plan has
But it does not say anything about them supplying anything to the fire companies to help put their stuff out if it catches fire. That's expensive. That's an extra expense that they don't need to protect our community for something we don't want.
Wouldn't that be provision?
I see what you're saying. say it falls under 4. I'll take a closer look at that, though. I get what you're saying, you need to pay for it.
Fred, I would agree. I think 4 does describe it. It's a little bit vague, but I would think that would be covered under 4.
Yeah. But I'll look into it a little further. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I know that there was a lot of discussion going on, but I couldn't hear it.
Your name?
Hannah Dovernet.
Thank you.
So I want to understand what you mean by this decommissioning. Does that mean they will remove all of the stuff and possible hazardous runoff or whatever from the area
Yes.
when they close?
It would include your equipment and accessories, yes. What it doesn't include is the structure.
So, but I thought I heard something about structure, which says we can't just make this data center remove their stuff and return the environment to the way it was unless we do it for everyone. So I'm having difficulty putting those two ideas together, that yes, they have to remove everything, but no, we can't make them. Amen.
Well, I'll explain this. The structure, everybody needs a structure. So if I require the data center people to remove the structure, I have to require every user in the industrial zone to do the same thing. Because that's about all I can tell that's the same from a data center to all the other uses. Is the building, not the stuff that's in there. That has to go. Mr. Parker.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but those existing buildings, businesses were built under a certain ordinance. So they need to comply with the ingredients of that ordinance. They're not subject to new ordinances, right?
Their use is not. What they do in the future is,
I don't, like if they build a building with the provisions in that ordinance that didn't contain decommissioning, how can you possibly say, hey, now we have a new decommissioning?
well, I don't think you can. which is
Right,
why it's
that's my whole point of argument. You
Right.
can add one now for future businesses that doesn't apply to establishments because they were built under in the previous ordinance that did not have that ingredient. That's what they signed up for, the whole ordinance.
Well, that's what they built under. If they were to go out of business, it'd be a future event, maybe under whatever the current ordinances are at the time. I don't want to make them tear down the building.
I don't see how they can be subject to
Yeah.
a future ordinance when they built with the understanding they needed to comply with this ordinance.
That's their use. Decommissioning is going out of business.
Right, but you're not making a decommissioning ordinance for the entire township.
No, but I'd have to. If I put structures in here, I'd have to put it in the other zone, all the other industrial zone. And I don't want to do
I'm
it.
not sure I follow the line of thinking of what
That's a question back in the noise end. We have businesses today, and they run impacts, everything have noise today. You're saying this here, you're going to say that applies to my business today also, as a noise?
No,
Okay.
no. The noise that's made by the data center is unique to a data center.
That's what I was saying about the buildings. We have industrial buildings up there in the industrial park right now that sits empty. You know what I mean? As the companies move out, when
Right.
people come, they get people move back in them buildings and keep on going. So when a business switches there, what you're saying, should I put my business up there and move out, and I'd have to tear my business down, my building?
Well, that's what I'm trying not to say. I'm trying to make them not have to tear down the building.
Yeah, but understand how you can make it apply to them up there already, buildings that are already here grandfathered in.
Well, if they're closed today, it wouldn't apply, but if we had to amend the industrial zone to make them decommission a building, then they'd have to tear it down. Assuming they're in business today, and not in business tomorrow. Yes, please.
I'm reading this, and this is regarding, the ordinance regarding installation of data centers in the town. Oh, I'm sorry. Instead of crossing. Thank you. I'm reading in this, and it states that it's the installation of data centers. It's not talking about industrial parks.
Right, which is why I'm taking structures out.
But you're stating if you take that structures and leave it in there, then it will affect the actual industrial park?
I'm saying that the data center people would make this apply to the rest of the industrial zone.
Got it, okay, now I understand. You're complying to data centers and not us by doing that, or hoping that you're complying to them so that they don't sue. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Look, I'm not afraid of litigation, and clearly, I've proven it. But I don't want to litigate things I believe will lose. And that would be a good in my opinion.
Okay. I totally understand.
Yes.
But it was kind of confusing to me.
I'm just a little bit confused here. The commissioners of Mifflin County, they voted 3-0 to agree to these ordinances. And Cody, yeah, they did. They voted on it, and 3-0 to agree to your ordinances. Now, the one guy said, Commissioner, I'm not going to mention his name, but he said they're not going to do anything about it for coming in or going out. That is up to Granville Township supervisors to say, yeah, you're coming in or you're not coming in. Right now in Cumberland County in Middlesex, the supervisors are voting tonight to either keep them or throw them out because they're going to build a data center right in back of the Little League's left field. And they don't want it. And I don't think the people in here want the data center. So what are we going through, all this hall stuff? Are you guys fighting on letting them come in and build it?
No.
Well then what do we do? Why aren't you guys setting up there and voting Karen, Corey, hey, vote on it and say, let them come in or we ain't letting them come in. I don't get this. We're getting a runaround.
When a township has zoning, it must allow for every use somewhere. And it must. That's state law. That's not us.
What do we have as a society?
We are.
We don't want it.
I know.
Well, the commissioner's already said it's going to be up to you guys to vote on it. Just like electricity. Did you guys hear anything from them on the electricity or the water? How much are going to need? No, I'll tell you what they need. For one day, the electricity that has to go through a data center will power 85,000 homes. They need 5 million gallons of water a day, 600,000 to do the cooling system. Now this stuff should be found out and fought over. I don't understand. You just said you didn't hear anything from them.
Not electricity and water.
Are you talking about the pack
company and it goes to the water.
This one?
What? No, I'm talking about this data center.
Oh,
The hyperscale.
whether you were talking about the Paxmill and
No, I'm talking about this data center. I don't understand. I'm confused. You guys have the power. It's in your hands. Why don't they?
We have the power. The state.
That's what I'm saying.
We have no power at all.
They have the power to vote it in or out.
We have the votes in and out.
You're not going to get a vote, sir.
Yes, we are.
No, you won't.
Yeah, we will.
They won't allow you to have a
Well,
vote.
they have no say. They're not what they are, is trustees. That's all they are. We have a choice. We can either do what they want to do, or we can throw them out.
Yeah, that's
Throw them
exactly.
out.
I agree with
And
you
we can do that
100%. But the commissioners already told them they have to vote it in or vote it out.
No.
Yeah, they do.
The governor signed it.
Yeah, but
That
executive order,
declaration.
what he said.
That's not.
What he
that's
said.
not obeyed by.
It has to be up to the local people.
The executive order is a joke.
Why is it, Cory?
That executive order is just a bunch of fluff. Look, I don't know if you guys all know, I'm a diehard Democrat.
I'm an independent.
Right. Well, so am I now. And if anybody's a Republican, they should think about doing the independent too, because we're all been sold out. What they're not doing with that this is just Shapiro's way to get more votes because he's starting this way. That is doing nothing for us. They're saying, oh, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that.
Okay, let's review, let us review something. Mr. Lighty asked you to be civil and not banter back and forth. Okay?
We asked for a good supervisor too.
That's all I'm asking is comment about this. What have you guys found out by this lady?
I was at their meeting today, they have
Okay, once again, we got people talking back and forth. He asked you to be civil, and we don't actually, there are state laws that have to be obeyed by the township supervisors. You cannot, and we've said this many times, we cannot just say, we don't like you, get out.
But you can. You can. You'll get sued, but you can.
Right, yes. Yes.
Right.
Thank you, your time is up.
Let it be kind to elected commissioners. If they set up there and say it's up to Granville supervisors, to let them come in and go out, then we ought to get together and we ought to vote them the hell out there. Get rid of it. What are they doing?
Thank you. Like I said, you've had more than enough time. We'll turn it back over to Mr. Lighty.
I apologize about that.
I appreciate your frustration, I really do. And if there was something we could do to just let them know, we would let them know. The state law doesn't allow that, the state law makes us have something, so. Yes, ma'am.
So, crystal court. Josh Shapiro specifically stated yesterday, and I have other questions, but he specifically stated, if the local community, and this is a direct quote, doesn't approve the project, the state won't approve it either.
Amen.
Period. So here's my, hold on, these are my questions, right? There have been 5 fully cleared permits that have been issued by the state. And when I come in here and we talk about these ordinances, I don't feel like it's an if, I feel like it's a, we're getting a data center, period.
There you go.
So, those 5 permits was PA data centers in any way part of those permits that were approved?
I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you not know that?
I don't know all the data center
So
developments.
here's the thing, if the township supervisors say the community does not want a data center, so we're saying no.
There are all kinds of different scenarios in different townships. In many townships, they're asking the supervisors to rezone land for them. That's within the discretion of the supervisors. They can say no, and if there's no industrial or any where it's permitted, they don't own the land, they can't build. I mean, every township is unique in what their situation is. So I would need more details to answer more specific questions.
I can't give you details because I don't know, like, so much for transparency, right? We're supposed to be a transparent government, and we have no idea the 5 data centers that have been permitted. I know they're Amazon data centers because Josh Shapiro lays in bed with Amazon, but
Well, you got the next senator, Corman, that's involved in this.
we're
So there you go.
SOL, like Corey said, we should just give up and not vote for anyone because what we think doesn't matter, period.
Yeah.
And that's clear in this situation, right?
You gotta keep fighting. You gotta keep fighting.
I'm tired and
I know I am
old,
too, but you gotta keep going.
And here's just one more piece of advice. So, the original ordinance meeting, right, with the proposed ordinance
Yes.
was a draft ordinance, correct?
It was adopted.
All right, and then, no, there were changes in it,
And the reason I know that is because when we looked at the final ordinance, there were changes, right? And lo and behold, I went on the township's website and looked at the original draft ordinance, and it was overwrote with the new changes that weren't discussed in the meeting when that ordinance was passed. Absolutely did happen, because I have such wonderful neighbors here. Lo and behold, there were people that absolutely had copies of that draft ordinance.
No, wait.
I'm not going to have this discussion with you, honestly, but you should not do that. If you have a draft that's presented to the public, that document should stay as is, and then when you adopt the ordinance, then that's a secondary document. But it was absolutely changed. No.
Thank you.
My father lives in North Carolina, and Google has a big humongous data center.
Did you say North Carolina?
Yes, in North Carolina. You can look it
Can
up.
we use the microphone?
Google has a humongous data center there, okay? And I also spoke to my nephew, who worked for Google, for security guard. And one of the issues they had there in North Carolina with Google is that they treat it as a military base. So therefore, none of your police are allowed in, none of your fire allowed in, none of your emergency crews are allowed in. It's treated as a military base because of military data. Is there anything we can do here to protect us from that?
No. It's private property that can exclude others. But
So
for
they wouldn't be,
emergency services.
you're telling me that.
But for emergency services, fire and police need to be in.
Would not be allowed in there,
They would be allowed.
even though they were treated as more or less like a military wall, as being housing military data. They treat it as a military base.
Well, I'm not sure of your example. I'd have to look into that. If it's truly a military base, they have their own rules.
They're housing military, they would be housing military secrets.
Well,
Military secrets.
well, that'd have to be disclosed to us, if that's what this one does.
So far we don't know what.
That's right. That's right. Yes, sir.
That was exactly one of your early comments you had made. Why would we allow industrial zone areas send sludge pond over to agriculture? Why are we allowing it? Well, you were not
Trying not to do that.
Not try, don't.
Well,
We didn't try.
I think it's pretty
We're
clear
sending
what goes
industrial
wrong.
waste on the agricultural zone. You can't do that. It's agriculture. It's not industrial waste like
I got you. There's several arguments we have. This ordinance makes it even more.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
If you read your definition on page 2 for the data center accessory uses, it plainly states that these accessory uses are allowed on assembly of parcels. When you tie it into page 7, item 5E, you combine 5E on page 7 with the data center accessory uses, and the way I read it, it's absolutely allowed. So I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, 5E
You have an assembly of parcels,
is talking about building placement and orientation.
but it says the assembly of parcel language, which is
As
exactly.
a unified development.
Correct, I know.
The unified development is data center, which is not permitted in the ag zone.
They're going to let them run wastewater.
No.
You're not.
No.
Wants to keep it on,
All of it's going to stay on the outside of the road.
what he wants in this one.
I think you can clarify that by adding a sentence or two saying all uses must, comply with
Compare that with,
Spooky season. Spooky season.
You are on page 18.
I was on the agenda. I'm looking for something else.
Oh, I'm sorry, like I said, you've been doing.
Okay, I'll look into adding a sentence there to clear that up. Okay, yep, I think that's, I just can't find it off the top of my head. Okay. All right, yes, ma'am.
Karen Govanek. Just to clarify, you are saying that the building, like the four walls of the building, and maybe upstairs and downstairs, that has nothing to do with particular to the data center, will be left, and every other nut and bolt and piece of moisture will be removed when it's decommissioned?
Yes.
Okay. I also have a very big question about water. My neighbors and I, right there's the line, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, quite a few neighbors right there that have well water. Can you have them put us on city water to protect us? Because, oh great, we find out there's something wrong with the well. Now we've all ingested, and children, toxic chemicals, and it's not our fault we're not on wells, because Granville didn't put us on wells when they gave Colonial Hills wells. So we have city water. So we have wells right across the street. If this thing goes in, which God forbid, can you put us on city water and save us? Because if we get it tested now, it's $840 per person, just those of us who live there, to get the second party, third party testing done so that it's legal. But then we won't find out there's something wrong until somebody gets sick. And gee, what possibly could happen that some of these chemicals could go into the groundwater? So can we have city water for those of us who are stranded with well water? It's a very big issue for us.
water company controls the water. I can't speak for them, and whether they want to hook you up or not. Mary, any insights on that?
They have water to sell, like what, I think she's asking if the data center would pay for that, correct, ma'am? I'm sorry. You're asking if the data center would pay for the water line extension to your houses, correct?
Yes, but
About the bill.
I can't imagine that the water authority is going to do it. It's very expensive. I mean, you live right there, and you've got that great big splash.
Test everybody's water in the baseline. All the well waters around here, have them tested. Have everybody's well water tested to have a baseline. Make them pay for it. So everybody has a baseline. So we know that if it's contaminated, we know to get it.
Yeah, well, I'd recommend, if you people like, I'd recommend you guys get your wells tested now. Because what's going to happen, well, for what it is, you guys don't trust the state blacks, meaning you don't trust people do it. I would do it if I, for my own safety. I would test my own well, because what happens here is the groundwater, everything, how much pollen they're going to drive in there and around buildings and stuff. They're going to disturb your top layer of man water, what seeps in, your stormwater and stuff. They can contaminate your wells. And then are they going to own up to it if your well's contaminated or not? You would have that proof on that part. But as far as the chemicals and the metals and all that you're worried about going in, I can't see that. I ain't, top notch on a study, but it would take longer for the metals and stuff to go through the ground to contaminate your wells. The quicker that they disturb those. The land, water, your top
I'm
stuff.
gonna put a pond in my backyard, a runoff pond.
I'm interested in the data center in it.
But you would have that safety on your own. You'd have that secured your own as your well tested here. Since they put in, that you could, that's the only thing that went on around you. If they disturb that ground, you're driving pallets in or digging, you're disturbing that dirt. I'd recommend you to do it for your own safety. And then, like he said, they could go out and make you pay for the wells and everything where you're covered. As far as that getting tested for bacteria and stuff, that ain't a whole lot the first one, but as far as the other metals and stuff, it would take longer for that to go through there. Am I right on that, Brian? For all that other stuff to get there, because it have to filter through the ground before it gets to the water to get there. But right off the start, they can go in there and start moving that dirt and everything, and destroy that.
From talking about putting in mowing pond
On the premises, what all they?
off the road and to the
proposed
agriculture.
plan, they're not calling out any chemicals like ponds. The only ponds they have called out are infiltration for stormwater. Again, that's per the proposed plans that we have seen.
No, what they did in this ordinance, if you listen to Mr. Lady, our lawyer, on that side, he don't want the settlement point. That settlement point got to stay over on the elder farm side with that, right?
Yes.
And that's what he's asking. That's what you're concerned about. Over on that side, there's no more what they got on their plans, that big settlement point against the Coney Hill houses and stuff. They're going to be setting it all back on Elder Farm. We don't want it over there at all.
So have you seen a new plan with sludge on the side? Have we seen a plan yet?
We didn't see no plan yet. This is in our,
The plan's on the website that they filed.
but this here is our ordinance. We don't want them to have it. This ordinance, we ain't gonna let them put it over there. You'd have to go to court that way and decide what you're gonna decide.
I think it's already prohibited from going over there, and it was added language to strengthen it. Okay, yes, sir.
I talked to a friend last week, and you guys it sounds like you guys are
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys want it. Okay, if it's such a good idea to have a data center, why is our houses going to drop 50% in the value of it? I mean, hey, if it's such a good idea, you think it would increase, not decrease. 50% is a lot to lose.
Well, if it's that, I'm not a real estate appraiser, I can't answer that per se. I saw one study out of Virginia that said it didn't grow property values. I don't know if to make that.
Well, they're down, he was referring to the people in Virginia that's going this, they're losing up to 50% of the value of your house because it's there. And of course, it goes down the further you are, but still, if you're right there, you lose 50% of your value with no water. How are you going to sell it?
Next. Yes, sir.
This might be not popular, but I would like to say, with the whole decommissioning thing that you have in here, it sounds like you have it, if they were to come in, heaven forbid, but after they leave, you still have it set up for other businesses to come in and take over that parcel of land to actually bring us tax dollars in and businesses and stuff. Thank you for actually putting that in there to make it sound like it's, in case it happens, it's going to be better for the future because you have that land, that big parcel spent, everything else. There's going to be how many businesses, how many heavy duty businesses that would like to come in there because they don't have to work with the cement coming in. So it actually is looking forward in case it actually does happen to be a positive thing. Just wanted to make that.
Bouncing off that lady's question, for that agreement, the community agreement that you're...
Well, there's several agreements. There's a community benefits agreement and there's a developers agreement.
Okay. Whichever one the category it falls in, could you make it that the people that are within the 3,000-foot area that have the wells, that they would put them, if the homeowner requested, would they switch them over?
I can certainly ask. We're a long ways from that, but I can certainly ask for that.
Well, I think that would help.
I know.
At least put some people at ease.
I'm even thinking of asking that they pay fair market value plus for your house if you want to sell it.
What was that? What did you just say?
I said they'll pay you fair market, well, I'm planning on asking them to pay you fair market value plus for your house.
If you decide to sell it.
If you live close by. Okay, yes, sir.
Steve, good evening. Is there anything in your information on structural damage that started in the last buildings up to the right next door?
That the end of the south, Brian?
Yes. Yeah, that language is in the subdivision land development.
Is that like a 2-year or 3-year thing like this with the state? And they put that road up there, the bypass? It didn't affect us until like 4 years later when the water's never bumping up. It was never there before, but they did that road then. When we go out of it now, is it going to be the same thing there?
I don't know for sure in terms of duration, after the development has occurred. We can look into that though.
As far as your city water, you guys talk about, our pipes from the dam down, you ever see inside one of them? Last week, one of the workers showed me a picture, they had a bust in there, everybody out in the farm. That pipe's like this big around, inside it's almost road shed, with rust, slag pipe, everything so bad. Let that come through the years, that pipe is so old, but through the years it's never flushed. You're always supposed to flush your water pipes out, through time. As they don't, that stuff grows and stuff, and that pipe was pretty nasty through there. You know what I mean? It's like it's treated out there at the dam, but by the time it gets there, you look inside that pipe, you would probably think twice before you went there with a glass of water. After I seen that pipe last week, you know what I mean?
So would the data center be able to handle that?
Huh?
If pipes were split, would the data center be able to hold that?
They would, but the data center's probably gonna be able to fix the pipes right in their area, right? But,
Well, the data centers will have to connect the pipes to something.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 10, under J1, so that's saying that data center can't use private groundwater wells or direct withdrawals from surface water if a public water source is available within 3,000 feet.
Correct.
What does that mean?
If they're within 3,000 feet of service, they must connect. And
So how close is the service?
It runs through the property.
Okay.
Because that showed me last night, the break was on out of the ground through his property, the 40-foot was replaced. Yeah.
In the back, sir.
So that means that they can't build a well, even if they're not getting enough water, secondary, JC order. Is that correct?
I can't hear you.
Let me speak louder. They can't drill a well if it's on the property, which it is. They have to hook up the public. But if they need more water than what's available, they're out of luck. They can't just build a bigger well.
That's right, they can't just drill it out.
Okay. Are we still worried about groundwater if they're not drilling a well? Is there still worries about contamination?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be earth moving if they don't understand. There'll be earth moving in the beginning, and then any impact on your well water will happen then. Once they're up and running, I don't foresee any impact on well water, but we have in here that they must pay for anybody's damage as determined by the township. So if you have a well, and you think they contaminated it, the township comes out, looks at it, says, yes, we agree with you, they must fix it. And there's all kinds of options to fix it. They can connect you to public water, they can redraw your well, they can do all this stuff.
I might be getting ahead of myself, but we have a lot of great things in here. What are the teeth? Like, we had a gentleman in the last meeting, and I really liked what he said about if these plans are not upheld, we'll hold your operating permit. Like, what's the teeth if they mess up any of these outlined ordinances?
So, just for instance, our current industrial pre-treatment ordinance, so if they would discharge anything that's not regulated or above what we can handle at the sewer plant, we have the means to physically disconnect them. We can physically disconnect their sewer service. That would eliminate their pulling ability to discharge that water, and that would essentially shut them down. The ordinances throughout the township, including this one, do have limiting abilities on the developer.
What about, there's a lot in here that they could potentially break. Is there a way, so with water, we can turn off the water if they're a lot louder than they're supposed to be? It's not just like, oh, well, I guess it's louder. Like, there should be a way to...
There is.
Okay.
It's not in here, but there is. It's the way we enforce all municipal ordinances. And at the end of the day, they get shut down if they don't comply.
They get shut down, not just fine, because they're rich. They'll be
Right.
shut down.
That's right.
Great, thank you.
How many times can they violate anything with the water?
They're in here.
Before, because they have money. How many times can they violate that? They'll pay out the ash, you know that.
Well,
When can you shut them down, stop?
It's based on the severity. I mean, if it's a serious public health risk, we can shut them off after fairly fast.
After what?
After quick notification.
Okay, question. I think everybody in the room and in this township wants an environmental impact study done by a third party that you guys pay, not what they pay. And we don't care how it gets paid for, or we're gonna raise our taxes to make sure, because there are 2 streams, there are aquifers, there are high recharge areas on that farm. I don't trust these people. We don't trust them because the owner of the data center company is also the owner of the company doing the testing that says there's nothing bad over there. So why do we want to trust it? We want our own environmental impact study.
Yep.
Well,
It's local politics.
yes, ma'am.
Wait. We want it. What's your thoughts? We
Well,
need the supervisors.
My thoughts are DEP does most of the environmental.
I don't trust DEP. They're not
I
even
don't
doing
either.
the vote.
I don't either, but that's who does most of the environmental. And they permit all this stuff.
We want an environmental impact study.
And she's asking the supervisor.
Supervisors, we want this. What do you guys say?
Corey, I second it.
I third it.
Can we get it on the agenda for the next meeting for a vote?
So So Corey, just a quick comment, not to cut off what the supervisor we're going to discuss. And as Fred said, DEP will mandate that that does occur. We have the ability to review whatever they submit to DEP to us.
They've already submitted their impact study. And we know right now that there's not everything on it.
I don't think they have some.
They have.
For here.
You guys have all said that they've already submitted one.
They have not submitted it to the extent that they are going to need to. They cannot.
So they just gave a generic version.
They cannot get the NCDS permit through DEP with this. Obviously, they're already showing wetlands on the property. We know there's streams through there. I know there's been conversation about cars topography. I did a quick look. I didn't see any in DEP's catalog. Not saying they're not there.
Give me your email address. I'll send you all the links.
Okay, please do.
No joke. I would gladly do that. But we want an environmental impact study. If you got to raise our taxes, do it. Because we're going to be paying out the ass anyway fighting this thing. So let's get it all done.
What's roughly one of them costs?
I don't even know. I mean, it depends how far it goes. Brian, do you have any idea?
Yeah, we need hydrogeology, not hydrology.
Again,
There's two separate things. Trust me, there's some of us that have dug so deep that we know that there are things that will stop this. So please, I'll even give you a list of names.
So just a recent environmental impact assessment that we had done for, again, not a similar project, but a recent environmental impact assessment. I believe we did it for 30.
Okay.
But again, there was a lot of background investigation to that before that number was developed. So don't keep going out saying, hey, it's only going to be 30 grand.
No, because what I've researched, it could be 1,500 to 2 million. That's my research. It depends on the size of the buildings. So we know that. So can we get you guys to say that you'll look into it?
We'll look into it, but I don't want to put that in this ordinance.
That's really what we're fighting for. If there's a chance to stop it, wouldn't you want to take it?
Yeah, but I don't know that it'll do any good. And I know DEP does it, and like Brian said.
I can promise you right now, I'm going to say it from everybody. If we don't get this, everybody's getting voted out. I'll promise you right now. No, it's not a joke. Are we joking?
No.
If this can stop it, we need to stop it.
Just say no. It's that simple. No.
It's actually not that simple. Okay, Mr. Farmer.
Carrying on to what Corey was saying, Brian, I really urge you to look into the karst conditions there. There's state maps that absolutely show it, there's no doubt, okay? If you walk the property, there's no doubt, okay? And the county actually has some pretty strict requirements that the township is supposed to be following. So familiar with those requirements, you would notice the impact it would have. So that's what I would suggest we focus on. I talked to the county the other day, and they told me that particular property is designated as a sensitive area for groundwater recharge. Now, back to the ordinance, a couple suggestions, recommendations. I didn't see a compatibility study requirement to make sure that anything built on the industrial ground is compatible with existing uses there, like residence, farms, other uses. And I know a lot of other ordinances have a compatibility study as part of their ordinance, so I would suggest that you consider that. Secondly, then, the power generation is really a power plant, let's call it what it is. It should have a separate ordinance. This isn't something that's gonna fit in, you know, a shed out back. This is gonna be a large power plant with pollution and everything else. It needs regulated. DEP has regulation. You can't count on DEP to count on everything. So I highly suggest we develop a small power plant ordinance as well.
Just something to stick in your head. We get back to that water situation. Now you watch, they did it in states out west. They're gonna bring stainless steel barrels in to bury them. And they're gonna fill them with water. Now watch and see if that don't happen. They did it out west. People raised heck about the wells and all this stuff. So what they do, they come in and dug it all up, put stainless steel barrels in there, and brought water in and filled it. That way they didn't have to worry about stealing 5 million gallons of water a day. So keep that in mind if they don't come in and put stainless steel barrels in the ground. They put 500 acres.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about the pipe that burst. On the farm, the pipe that was burst. So how many feet of that was replaced?
He said roughly around 40 feet.
So.
But you're supposed to be right beside that too, someplace up there.
I'm sorry?
You're supposed to be another break up there too. And he said,
And my thought is, so if you have this really, really old pipe that has a hole that's big in it now, when they start bringing in 300,000 gallons or whatever more water, what is gonna happen to all of
that pipe
those
needs to support
pipes?
that pressure, so you know what's going to happen is going to break.
I'm sorry?
That pipe can also support that kind of pressure trying to
Well,
get
that's
there.
what I'm saying. So
They're going to be
are they
restricted from the
replace
water,
replace
or it's going to
all
bust the pipe.
Are they gonna pay to replace all these pipes that aren't suitable?
Well, you have to
for
talk,
this water?
the water company got their own answer to that, and that's where you guys need to go, start asking the municipal out there at the water
Well,
company.
I can't go to a meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
We had this discussion today. That is not the line that they would hook up to. The industrial park has larger, newer lines and needs the water authority to mandate where they hook up. So those lines are not where their connection would be. They isolated the industrial park so that that doesn't affect those that are like, building the house. Yeah, so they would have to hook onto that industrial line. Is that how you understood what we explained today, Brian?
Okay, you talked about Granville us having independent people come to test the groundwater. Does that mean that Granville Township is going to have the third-party people come in and test our wells, which will cost $850 a house? Or do we each have to spend $850 to test the water? Or can we get together and have one person's well tested?
Well, Granville Township, which is what the town is not planning on testing everybody's well.
Can we make the data center pay for it if they come in? Yes. Cost.
Can all of us get together and just test once since we live like within feet of this massive thing? And just have one third-party test for all of us?
See, I'm getting aquifers, I give it a run, just clicking the numbers, cut.
Brett, you got an answer to that, Brian does?
Again, if nobody has answered the testing it before, if the data center does come in, that is obviously something we can try getting added into the land development agreement. And then the data center would take initial samples of the wells.
Okay, and they would test for all of the things that are going to come, like copper.
Like I'd recommend if it was mine, you try to get the first of your own so you have something to stand on. You know, you don't trust the people out here. Corey can tell you who you want to test and who you know is going to be truthful. But when you get your own test and you have it now before the project project, if it starts or ever tries to start, you know what I mean? That you would have that to go by, because what happens when they start destroying the top of that ground, moving dirt and driving pallets in and stuff, you could have your wells get contaminated by surface water, which would turn into, bacteria in there with your drinking. So, the safety on the, so your well's covered, because what he's saying in here, everything would be covered through the data center to come fix it.
So do you know if we could just pool our resources and have one of us tested, or do we each one have to be tested by a third party?
I mean, that ain't my choice. I mean, that's your choice. Cover yourself if it does come. You know what I mean? I would have that evidence here, say, here's my test. Now my well's contaminated. You know what I mean? And it wasn't before you started taking care of it. So you have something to go by if you live there within that area. But that's just what you guys want to do. That would be my theory if I lived there. You know what I mean? I live across the river from there, but I don't, I ain't right there against that.
Has there been any infrastructure built in Granville Township in expectation of this center coming here? Nothing? No big thick poles and things like that?
No.
Okay, right here.
This is for everyone who has a well. Don't assume that your water's coming to run around your house. It can come from miles away. So if it's not right here, it don't matter where you live. Anybody that's on a well can run into problems, because that actually happened to me. There is nothing going on my place anywhere. And we get up one morning and our water was the color of Terry's shirt. And we can never figure out who, what, where, or when. It could have been somebody done some landfill several years ago, and because of the rain and everything, it went down through to the water lines. To anybody on a well, I just don't want to hear because of this data. Everybody needs to be concerned about their well, because that water could be coming from maybe 5-10 miles away.
All right, in the back, we gotta move on.
Yes, sir. I have a procedure question. If somebody brings something up and somebody else seconds it, does it not have to be voted on in the next meeting?
No.
I'm sorry, what's your name? Becky Burke. Thank you. And this may be stupid, but I've been sitting here listening to all of this, and all the cons of having this come to our community. Can you tell me one pro that we have? What is one thing that you can tell me we're getting good out of having this come to our community?
I too the tax dollars. Don't pay a lot of taxes.
What year?
Well,
What expenses are going to be changed?
In the back, then we're going to go on.
My question is, Garrett Folk.
Thank you.
The previous proposal, they said about the access to the property and the traffic report keeping that going. They wanted like, what was it, over like 1,100 trucks a day or something. And so you're allowed 750 in Middle Road. So how's that going to work?
Well,
With them not being allowed to run that many trucks on the road?
we're looking into that, and when the conditional use for the major traffic impact study comes up, that'll be a topic. It's not limited to 750. The ordinance says if you have more than 750, you can go under the major traffic impact.
I was wondering if the road's going outside of the road.
Gotcha, we're looking at it. Okay, let me move on. try to finish this up. So on page 19, I added the insurance, I added municipalities planning code at the end of U, informational at the beginning of U. I added the insurance. The insurance is $5 million, $10 million minimum. It can be up if the engineer says so. And a conflicting terms provision, which says if anything is elsewhere out there in our ordinance is in conflict with this controls. Severability is just that. If anything in here is shot down, the rest of it stands. And 8 replaces the last ordinance. So with that, we are through. Supervisors, I would ask if you want to approve advertising this ordinance for adoption, subject to me looking into the 2 comments made here tonight, which was about the building placement orientation and about the data center paying for the emergency management.
What's the change?
I'm sorry, data center paying for what?
Data center paying for the emergency services.
Okay.
That help us. Subject to the
There's nothing we can put in there about data centers testing their wells regular, like every year or so, anything like that? When the homes are in a certain footage around there?
No, you should read what it says about wells.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we were pretty well protected.
Protected, that's in there to cover that?
I think so.
Okay.
Brother Fred, what, under item 5, the data center shall not cause an adverse impact to the water rights or water supply of others. Could you just state that data center shall create a baseline and then not cause an adverse impact?
Where are you at, Brian?
Page 11, number 5. If we include something about the data center shall create a baseline of local wells or something along those lines.
Well, I'll look into it. Okay. All right, so three things.
We got one more question there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my understanding with the karst conditions on that ground, that the township can require a hydrological study of the groundwater movement. And I'd like to remind the township that there are a lot of wells nearby that site. If you look at the way the topography and everything flows, Waterside Campground has a number of wells that serve the campground. The Locust Development is all on wells. So you're letting them, making a big chance here without requiring a hydrological study. And while I'm up, I also want to mention, I kind of got the impression that you're going to make whatever revisions you're making to the ordinance right now and going to fast track this and post it for review, and there'll be no other revisions. I hope that's not the case, because we discussed a couple other things, and there's other items that weren't probably discussed by other people. One of them being like construction damage and noise, like blasting and everything else. I don't see where that's covered.
It's covered in the cell bill.
You think the cell bill covers it adequately for blasting?
Well, I'd have to look into that, and that would be another amendment to the saldo, not to this.
All right, I'm just trying to look for coverage the whole way around.
I got you. Okay, ready?
Here, one more question now.
Was that technically public comment?
We were waiting for public comment.
Like, I was trying to be respectful, and because I knew you were still going through the ordinance.
You can take public comment.
You go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
What after you?
I tried to hold it on the bottom, I was trying to be respectful of what your process was.
Name
My name is John Zangari from Lewistown. There's a couple pieces to this, a couple questions about the general piece and also the ordinance itself. My first question actually goes, you guys kind of brought up the DEP, and I think I'm a lay person, a lot of us are lay people. When development comes in, like whether it be a data center, whether it be someone who's building an overhead door, whether it be whatever, what is your guys' actual correspondence with DEP? Is it as simple as, for example, if they're saying, hey, we're going to do all these studies, you actually work with them? Is it as simple as they just drop something in your lap? I think that kind of can help, because I understand the fear of big government, the big player, but how much insight do you guys as a township get when they come in and they're like, we're going to give you these permits, like you get to see everything, you get to have input, they come to you, like how does that, on a base level, overall?
So we would require them to provide us the permit that DEP issues and the permit's active. So we would get to see the submitted information and the permit provided by the department.
In your experience, do they actually come here? Do they actually show up? Do they send people? Do they actually go through? Like, it's not just they're looking at it on some map somewhere?
Again, they have to, because it is being stamped by a professional. That professional will be held liable if any of the information is incorrect.
I wanted to say that, it's like, it's very easy to think this big company's going to look at it on a map and go, oh, that's good, and hit go. Especially when we're in these rural areas, don't want to drive all the way up. In your experience, they have to come out, they have to go and do these things. Whether or not you trust that is a whole different thing, but they at least have to come here to do that, correct? Okay. Second thing, the ordinance. This is a question. I'm not trying to be judgmental about how it was written. My big question comes down to the actual, some of the language. Throughout the entire ordinance, there seems to be areas that it's very, suggestive rather than demanding, right? It's mostly my mom giving me suggestions about what to do rather than you saying you have to do these things. I mean, for example, explore BESS as a backup energy source. Projects are encouraged to be designed and constructed to meet current LEED standards. I mean, it's littered throughout the entire thing. Now, again, we've had this discussion of why is that not more, you have to follow these standards, you have to do these things.
Because it's something we want to encourage, but we don't want to require it because we don't know what's coming. And, it may not be good in all cases.
Okay. So, like, for example, let's just talk about LEED standards, right?
Yes.
On a base level. Like, in that kind of a case, it's a set of standards. What is the argument to, we're not gonna make you stick to that versus we're gonna make you stick to that and God forbid they ever change those standards, we just make another amendment.
Well, so that's a good point. Do we want to require them to be in these? I don't think so. Because, it's something you gotta get in this place. It is, but, I mean...
Again, I wanted to see what the argument is. So you're saying to me, or to the group, the areas that you believe that like these are the hardline enforceable things that you require, the areas where you think that we have to be flexible because of the concerns of the future.
Some of the flexibility comes from the fact that I don't think I can actually enforce it too.
That's what I want to know. Is it more of a, hey, we're putting this in there? Does putting it in there as recommendations, as these guys, does that give us anything back of, hey, wait a minute, you didn't, do anything?
Can I force them to do it? No.
Okay.
It's in there. It communicates our intentions. We like it, but if they don't do it, they don't.
How do you enforce?
You can't enforce these things. It's encouraged. It's not mandated.
But you can't enforce that, though.
Encourage them? No.
Exactly. Is that what we're getting at? How do you
It's
enforce?
a way of communicating to them. We really like it, but we feel we can't enforce it.
That brings us to the last piece of it. Okay, if we would really like it, why not? And you're saying, I'm not putting words in your mouth, you're saying, even though we like some of these things, they're not legally enforceable?
I'm saying this way or not.
Okay. My last piece is this, and
I'm arguing over that.
no, I understand, I'm mostly just trying to get some clarification. The last thing I think has gotten brought up a lot, and I think it is not gonna get answered in this ordinance, but I think should be looked at, and curious the supervisor's thoughts on this. We keep looking at the Ellinger property, I know we're building this ordinance for everywhere. We keep looking at the Ellinger property, it's got brought up a million times about, okay, the structures and how to undo it. We all know that the moment you throw down all this cement and concrete in these buildings, you cannot turn that land back, even farmland. Now, instead of arguing and saying we need to put the structures back, I actually put it back on the supervisors and the zoning of why is the areas that are clearly farms, it looks like a farm, it smells like a farm, acts like a farm, but why are we allowing it to be zoned industrial? I understand you don't love big government coming in and telling us, well, what can you do with your land? But we're sitting here in a situation where we have a clear farm, and it's being used as a farm, it's been used as a farm forever, and all of us are looking back in decades of why in the world was it even zoned industrial in the first place. And I feel like it's an area where if it was zoned agricultural, because that's what it is, fundamentally, then we wouldn't be having some of these arguments we are now. I understand about not wanting to make it so they have to tear everything down, because you don't want to make it so First Quality has to demolish their whole building, God forbid they ever close up. I understand that. But the real crux of the issue is, why in the world was it industrial in the first place? And can we work to get that unindustrialized and make it what it actually is, which is agriculture?
Take that.
That zoning goes way back to 1997. Okay? And it's been there since that point. And I assume it was put in there, for expansion. All that was farmland. Everything we have is farmland at one time.
Right.
Okay, so, you get out and you look in Lancaster County, you look in Cumberland County, go across 30, all that stuff, Adams, it's all farmland at one time. So,
but now we sit in an area that has more and more people. I mean, I've been around the entire district that I'm looking to represent. I've talked to people in the center, represented us in the center, talking to people about data center development and all this stuff this entire time. One thing I'm hearing from everybody, and I almost feel like I get everybody in this room even agree with me, is we are looking for more farmland preservation. So I understand in an era where we're seeing rapid expansion of industry. Look, if I understand somewhere down the line someone marked that land that could be expansion of something. But now we're all sitting here, it's 2026. The people are saying we don't want more expansion. This area is a farm. Acts a farm, looks a farm. I mean, I can go through the whole metaphor again, but why is it not now as supervisors? I mean, like our lawyer literally said, okay, other municipalities are actually looking at doing rezoning in certain areas. I'm not advocating getting rid of the whole damn industrial zone. I'm saying, hey, wait a minute, the mega property that's here doesn't fit. And we all are sitting here going, why in the world was that there in the first place? So as supervisors, as the township, can you not rezone that area, reassess that spot and go, actually, this is agricultural. It's been agricultural, it's just been industrial since God knows how long. I understand your argument, it's been like that, but why can't you change it?
They can. According to the Pennsylvania Municipalities Handbook, Code of Handbook, it says that supervisors with a majority vote can change any zoning.
Let's do that.
No. Yeah.
Well, you can't do that because they have a plan filed, they bought the property, and it's zoned industrial because it's part of the industrial area. The area comes out, they included some farms, but it's mostly to the north and west, right? So if when you draw an industrial zone, you want to keep it together, and that's what they did back in the years.
So then we should get rid of Vista. Well, yeah.
Again, I understand, we keep going back to this area is industrial, we may go down the loop, but we're glossing over the fact that it's not, that plot is.
Well, every new development needs to go somewhere, and Pennsylvania is mostly farmland. So farmland gets lost for the new development. That's just a truism.
But we're saying that as a township, right? Again, I don't live here, but the people we've spoken with are saying we do not want to lose that farm. And I understand as a private property owner, you can sell your land, you can do whatever you want, but when you're looking at your grand plan as a township,
If you're looking at it as a grand plan, and you look at the zoning map, it made sense to make that industrial. It had to go somewhere, that's what it did.
but the world's different than it was in 1979 when you made the damn zone in the first place, not you, but everybody else. Things have changed. Do you not think that, so what is the argument gonna be in 30 years when everybody's marching down the door going, oh, we want the next version of a data center and we need to expand the industrial zone? Why can it not be the opposite? Why can it not be, hey, we need to take this area back to be agricultural?
Why can't it be what?
Why can't we, your argument is everything has to expand. We have to build more industry. It has to get cut out somewhere. Why can't it be the opposite of, we want more agriculture, so we're gonna take that back?
This township has a lot of agriculture. If you look at the map, it's mostly agriculture. So that area was picked for industrial use. I wasn't here then, I can't speak to it, but that's what was picked and it makes some sense. If you look at the industry that's there.
And I can understand that, but when the people are demanding a change, when the people are saying, we don't want more industry, like that's where the
But
disconnect.
you have to allow everything somewhere.
Which we do, we have an industrial zone. Why does it have to keep expanding?
Well, if you look at the zoning map, not everything is industrial zone.
That the plot that is industrial is.
Yes.
So why do you have to continue letting it expand?
They haven't expanded it since, what, 97?
But you are allowing for what is, there are open plots in the industrial area. We know that. The agricultural farm is technically up there, which would be another argument that we should be going down. But if we're really going to try to throw some sticks and stones to the Ellinger properties right there on the edge, we're to say that we can't claw back and that, oh no, now there's no industrial thing, that's not going to be an argument that people can make. The people here are making an argument that we should be reclaiming that zone as agriculture.
Okay, I got you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, John.
I'm going to kind of make a statement more than anything, but I did want to touch on a piece that John talked about with the Ellinger property. There's a question why that is zoned industrial, and unfortunately, see if Corey can remember, I think she went and looked, when they went to, I guess, the courthouse to look for Granville Township records where everyone else had tons, Granville's was like this big. That's not your fault, I'm just saying, what they were looking for was why it was made industrial. And we've heard from some folks who've been involved with the build of MCIDC. They claim that Ellinger's property was basically moved to industrial as a buffer for MCIDC. Now, I said that. And somehow there's no record. We cannot find record of this. I remember talking to you, Paul, a couple of months ago, or however long ago, down at your office about this, that, there's the record of this. Well, apparently we can't find it. But, perhaps it was listed as industrial simply because it was to be a buffer for MCIDC.
For that to work, there'd have to be a zone called buffer, and there's not. So,
okay.
I understand you're saying that,
Yeah.
but it's not available in any of today's documents.
Okay, fair enough. The other thing that I was wondering about, kind of related to Ellinger, is that I'm not understanding even how we're this far along when Mosby was Granville Township's lawyer, and also now we know, because the cat's out of the bag, right, that he acted in the pocket of Ellinger as his own lawyer. So how is that not an ethics issue? How is that even legal? Like, can we not go back even that far? Lady, I mean, I'm looking at you because you're the attorney. We're certainly going to ask our attorney. But I'm kind of wondering how any of this is even legal, given the fact that Mosby was acting as Granville's attorney and also, now we know, the attorney for Ellinger at the same time. Like, how's that? Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say is regarding this, and I'm trying to keep to my truth. I know that, I'm aware that you've spoken with the citizen's attorney, Bill Clark, and he's spoken to you about the fact that our research team did hundreds of hours of ordinance amendments. I understand you're gonna hand that in, okay, and it's much better than the first one. Know that we are still going to present to you, once Clark is through, making sure it's all legal, we're gonna be presenting that to you to at least give a good look, okay? Because even some of the things that look really good, our research team is not even better.
So one of the things we can do here is another amendment.
Hey, that's what I'm
I know
talking
these meetings
about.
are painful, but we can do another amendment.
Right.
I'd like to get this one in place.
Agreed.
Because the first one's been challenged.
Yep.
Grounds I can't comment on. But, let's get this in place and we can do another amendment.
Yeah, no, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but I am not going to walk away from these issues, this Mosby issue, and I'm not speaking from no data centers in Macon County, I'm saying, Tisha, this Mosby issue is really something, and then this Eleanor thing, I just can't go away from it. There has to be something there, it makes no sense. Why list it as industrial and then continue to farm it? Word on the street says Eleanor's claiming he hadn't made money on that piece of property for years. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like it was made a buffer. And so they had to list it as industrial. I could be wrong. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm Courtney Singer. I just wanted to, I'm a lay person trying to get caught up to speed on all this stuff, and I just want to make an appeal to the supervisors, because your website is politely crap. And it is really hard to find information or know when stuff is happening, and minutes missing on the website, this document 2022. So could you guys update that and make sure that we know what the heck is going on? Because if it's, and I'm just a layperson, I'm just a teacher, I'm not a lawyer, if it's not criminal, it should be. I don't know what's going on. You guys do not, I think it's pretty clear that people look at you and mistrust because you do not put information out there. It is
Is on the homepage of the website.
And I heard somebody else say that it got changed on the website before, and the mismanagement.
It'll change from time to time.
Yes, but that's not great document.
Well, do you want to know?
Documents. Well, you can have a multi-labeled document like this was the first version so that we can see what changes were made instead of just updating it to the most current one before you even presented it to everybody. I think that the management of the documents is garbage. So could you please do better? Thank you.
Let's try to wrap this up.
My name's Larry Burke. I have a question. When you rivers turn around, second data center's coming in. It's coming in behind the wall. Is that true?
Yes, he has their own farm.
The data center coming down this wall.
It's too big.
That came from a very good source.
The plans are online.
I know the person who owns the first farm, it's Maine's, it's the next one back, it's already sold, ground sold, and that's where, all you have to do is follow the power up. You know where it's going.
Overholters? Overholters farm?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it.
5 buildings on Eleanor's and 1 building.
They were proposed at the same time, but not proposed together.
It came in as one plan.
One plan.
So what are we supposed to do? That everybody that's down in that area, you're gonna get that, and we're gonna get the same thing, they're gonna get up there.
Well, that's why we're trying to pass the rules.
So if you're trying to make this town a ghost town, what you're trying to do, because there's elderly people in here, they ain't gonna be able to stand it, like me. I had cancer, I had heart attack, I had 2 stents, double bypass, I have a pacemaker in. I know one thing I'm gonna check into. They were up, Granville Township was up where I live at Long's Drive. They put sewer line down here from Walmart. They were supposed to put some kind of filtration center up there at Walmart. So I go out back and say, my backyard every day, I get the smell of shit. Every day. And they were up there these 7 or 8 times working on that bill, and it's still in there. Oh, he's doing it. And if I find out it came from Matt, I disease came from Matt, I'll sue it everywhere. There won't be a Granville Township. Because I'll break it. I'll take you all on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
One more fast, and we move on.
It's quick. You said the property was sold. Are you referring to that one-page document that had like the dollar amounts redacted out?
Yeah.
Or has there actually been a deed filed, and is the property sold without the deed?
Well, I saw the agreement for sale, and
Right.
with the redaction.
Wouldn't there be a transfer of the deed when a property is sold?
Well, there should be.
But last I knew, there wasn't one filed. So
Well,
is it actually sold
I haven't checked
without
that
a deed?
lately. I haven't checked that lately. What they'll do is they'll enter into an agreement of sale, subject to them getting permission to build, and then the deal gets consummated.
We sold that property.
Yeah, but they redacted out whatever law back.
Right, but the deed last I knew wasn't filed.
Okay, we're going to move on here now. Going to need a motion. We've got one motion to accept ordinance number 2026-03 with the corrections that Mr. Lighty is going to make. There's no opinion, yes, sorry. Do I have a motion? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fiore, a second.
Why? For what? What are the protections? Because we're losing the decommissioning, we're losing more sound. It's a gamble every time. You take more crap and give us a few things to make it look pretty.
We were promised in the first one that you would make that land go back to the farm. That you would have to dig, there would be a bond, and you would make them take that, if it ever went out of order, that you would take it right back to farmland again. You would make them do it. Am I crazy, or did you say that? Yeah, once it shuts down, that was all supposed to go back to farmland.
Yeah, well, okay, since then, I've learned something about what we can and can't do, and that's why I propose this.
Do I have a second to the motion?
Go ahead. Mr. Lighty, on the changes that you made, can you publicly state that you're going to change that item under the accessory uses data sentence to clarify? Yes. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stewart. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.